Day 33 of 100 Days of Code as I'm learning the Python programming language. This video is to track my progress and to hold myself accountable. Today I spent some time focusing on making basic HTTP requests using Python. And I started off by making sure to install the Jupyter Notebook on my VirtualBox. So right now I'm in my Kali Linux VM, and I ran the command to install Jupyter Notebook, which is the Jupyter Notebook command, just like that. Also, you may need to do a sudo apt-get update. I did have to run this command first, and then I installed the Jupyter Notebook. Once that was installed, I created a folder within my desktop. So I'm going to change over to the desktop directory, list it out. The folder I created is called request. Here's where I'm going to be working out of and creating my Jupyter notebooks to just perform some of the basic requests. I'm going to clear my screen. I'm going to go ahead and run Jupyter Notebook. Now, once you run this, it'll actually pull up a web browser redirecting you to the Jupyter Notebook. And you can see here's my Jupyter Notebook. I'm going to create a new Python notebook, and I am using Python 3. Once I'm in my Jupyter Notebook, I'm actually going to retitle it. I'll name it Day 33 Get Python Prep. You may need to start off with installing or doing an upgrade on the install request, and you would do so by using exclamation point pip install request. Now I've already done this, so once I hit Control Enter to run this, it'll make the necessary installation. Then you have to import the request package. So you would do so by running import request. So request is a module that we're using. We're importing it in order to utilize it in our code. I'm also going to import that function from it, import JSON. So now that this is inserted in our code, I can go about utilizing the request module and then also JSON when I'm calling these requests. If I want to check the version of my request package, I can do so by using the print function, calling that request module, and then I would underscore version underscore. So once I ran this, you can check the version that way. And this is just the metadata. And I can also check the copyright if I wanted to do the same, but just use copyright keyword. I'm actually going to pull information from the MetaWeather site. So if I insert this, and this, I'm going to use this URL. It's going to pull from this state. So this indicates the state. This is the ID for the state. And then I have the date here as the first. So I'll be using this URL to do the GET request. I'll go back to my notebook. And just keep in mind, not all weather websites allow you to make a GET request without authentication. Some require you to authenticate. And if I wanted to look at the header at the metadata, I would use pprint function get, and actually we're going to add this here and set our variable. So once I've assigned my GET request to a variable and executed that, I should be able now to call different functions and pull metadata from this particular URL. So I'm going to start by getting the status code of it. I could do r_get status code. I can execute that, and you can see that it has a status code of 200, which means okay. You can also use print get, and it also responds with a 200, which is successful. Now I'm going to pull some header information. So this is metadata from the header, and I would do that by using r_get headers. And when I execute this, you can see that it provides me quite a bit of metadata on this URL, the header. Here in particular is what requests are allowed on this URL. You have to keep in mind that not all URL endpoints allow any HTTP request, and not all weather websites will allow you to make a GET request without authentication. So this particular website allows the GET request, the head request, and the options request. There are others like the put request and the post request. Those are not allowed for this particular URL. And that is the basic HTTP request.